Welcome back, and now for part 2. But first, a word from our sponsors. Grave Robbers from Outer Space card game is the game where you create your own B-movie and have a blast doing it. I love my movie's title this round. The House of the Vampire Goddess and the Annihilation of the Naughty Minion. Since I'm not your minion, I like it too. Alright, my cute vampire girl attacks your aged vampire hunter. Time to make him a ghoul to serve me! Diamonds are a ghoul's best friend. Come on, Drew. You always drag out your turn. I'll discard his sharp stake. But your cute vampire girl is now dust. Not so fast. I play Hiss and Flee, so she's safely back in my hand. Fair move. Secretly happy the vamp is okay. How many characters do you have left? 3. My prom queen, the bookish girl with no boyfriend, and the big bad wolf. Why? Oh, plot twist. The doomsday device goes off. Everyone dies. It's really weird, Drew. You always seem to get that one. I did say. Annihilation of the Naughty Minion. I'm not your minion. 1, 2. And guess what? What? I win. Again. The link so you can see how to play the game and get your own sets of cards is graverobbersgame.com. It's a bold move that Ford makes by coming in. I think the whip pan from the intimate moment with us to his entrance shows this. It emphasizes his balls. I didn't see a crotch shot. Figuratively. Spike asks if we finally found a restaurant that delivers. The vampire that Ford said he killed gives Spike the book. Spike wants to do away with Ford, but I stop him. I know Fuzzy Ford can lead us to Busy Buzzy.
Buffy confronts Angel about Drusilla.
I'm a hot topic. Buffy, buff, doesn't want to be lied to. It's the first time that she says that she loves Angel, and it's in the midst of a painful scene. She's not sure that she can trust him. She wants the truth. He tells her of his past. Our past. He tells her that he did a lot of unconscionable things and Drusilla was the worst. Black sky, black sands, black sea. He says Drew was an obsession of his. He describes Drew prior to meeting him as pure, sweet, and chaste. He confesses that he killed her family. He tortured her, followed her to a convent, made her insane, then turned her. Babies floating in crimson tides. Shadows jibber-jabbering at every turn. I'm sorry that happened to you, Drew. Topsy-turvy, turvy-topsy. Do you want to take a few moments to rest? We can carry on, and then you can chime back in when you're feeling better. All right. That's it. Just close your eyes for a little bit. Yes, you're safe now.
Yes, Drew.
Before telling Buffy the truth, Angel says that sometimes lies are necessary because the truth is worse. I personally don't think lies are ever the answer. I always prefer to know the brutal, raw truth, even if it's painful. What about you?
Yeah, I too prefer the truth. Often we think we're protecting somebody from being hurt, but what we can't do is predict the unintended harm that those lies can have. So, I think of the saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, really applies there.
The camera move, when Ford and Buffy meet up, is perfect. It circles them. Buffy has lost her equilibrium. Things are not what they seem. She doesn't know what to believe. Her world is unstable.
Oh my gosh, she's snoring.
Do we wake her?
What'll happen if she wakes up on the wrong side of the bed?
But we can't have her snore throughout the record.
Scooby Dru?
Drusilla, no lie. You'll be coming back in soon. Do you want to join in on Lie to Me? Okay. Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey. Or as I like to say, wakey, wakey, bones are breaky. Ugh. You have great fashion sense, Minion Juliet. Okay, I lied. No, I meant discussing the episode. Oh, but I like that game. I like being a minion. Finally seeing the dog. Nope, I lied. Not a minion. I thought we'd stop that game. We have. It's interesting how Buffy shuts Willow and Xander out. She's betrayed by them, by their lies of omission. She's hurt. That's what happens with lies.
Because of that lie, she goes off on her own to face Ford and the Vamps.
Yeah, no team, no backup. You feel bad for Chanterelle's naivete. Buffy confronts Ford and calls him a lying scumbag. She figures out that he's arranged to trade her in exchange for being turned. It's a trap. Ford says, no one gets out of here alive. Any ideas about that reference and where it comes from?
Oh my God. Is it from it's the saying that no one gets out of life alive? I know I said that totally wrong just now.
Who's your guess?
Was it Oscar Wilde?
No, it's actually a line from the Doors song 5 to 1. And the name of the first biography about lead singer Jim Morrison is also called that. This episode has a lot of references to Americana pop culture, the idea of the teenager with references to Morrison, James Dean, and so on. 5 to 1 is ironically on the album titled Waiting for the Sun, appropriate to vampires. 5 to 1, baby, 1 in 5. Only Drew is here unalive. Thank you, Drew. Speaking of doors, there's no way to open the door from the inside of the Sunset Club. They're locked in what was originally a bomb shelter. Kaboom. Thank you again, Drew. I like that Buffy calls it the, quote, all-you-can-eat moron bar. Ford uses a word I'm quite fond of.
Which one is that?
Ninny. Spike and we get ready to go, with a little hair pulling thrown in. True. Ow. Ouch. You don't like it? No. It was supposed to be 3 play. You mean 4 play? Yes, but there are 3 of us. I like how the scene with Ford is blocked and it's on the move. What are you doing? Offering you my tresses for a little pulley pull. Not happening.
No takers, Drew.
We're talking about something urgent. Buffy is in action mode. She's trying to figure out how to save the humans while finding out what Ford's MO is. Ford Mo? Ford Motor? No. Modus operandi. Latin is music to my ears. Good to know. Speaking of music, we were not speaking. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Tell me lies, tell me lies. Oh no, no, you can't disguise. You can't disguise, no, you can't disguise. All together, and Re-Vamped join in.
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies.
Tell me lies, tell me lies. Oh no, no, you can't disguise. You can't disguise, no, you can't disguise. That was fun.
Literally every single song has these ranges.
I know. Drew never picks anything easy, right? I do too. I never have that problem. Because you sing on one note. I beg your pardon. Never mind. Do you want to know something cool? The Sunset Club is the bronze redressed. I prefer undressing. Not now. The blue gels on the lighting create a great mood. Drew, I mean it. Keep your clothes on. Ford shares that he is ill and dying. Jason is really touching when he says he has about 6 months to live.
It made you think instead of him just being a straight up villain.
Bad guy, yeah. And on a makeup note, the splayed eyelashes that Todd has on Sarah really accentuate her innocence, purity, and a sense of wonder. You're using similar words Angel used about me. True. There are often parallels between our characters. Spoiler alert. After losing his soul, Angel mentally tortures and tries to break Buffy in a similar way to how he broke Drew. I'm not broken. Noted. I'm sorry, Drew. Accepted. Sarah makes a great transition from being moved emotionally to being clear that what he's doing is wrong. Ford makes a point that it's interesting how people don't understand or have empathy for a situation if they aren't experiencing it. He states that their judgment of what is right and what is wrong might change if they did. The scene between Ford and Buffy is shot with a lot of close-ups and ECUs, which are extreme close-ups. It's a very expressive scene. My dashing lover gives Chanterelle a hickey. I'd call that more than a hickey. It's a feasty. Buffy clocks me. If I wasn't weak from the mob in Prague, it never would have worked. She did a bait and switch.
What do you mean?
Buzzy was supposed to be the bait, but she switches it and uses me as such. That's true. Spike has no choice but to let the humans go. She's just jealous of my history with Angelus. I'm not sure that is her primary motive. We are none too pleased with Ford. This is a scene where I fill out a lot and I communicate the power I have and the connection with Spike without words.
Your look at the end really buttons up the scene. It's pretty diabolical.
Thank you. Danger is afoot. Or a hand. Or an elbow. He. Oh, Sid. Maybe we could go, oh, no, 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 Sid. Oh, Buffy says that it would be easier if she could just hate him. I think that this speaks to the real world. Terrible people can have shades. It's often not simply black or white. Anything nice someone does can and does coexist with their terrible actions. It does not cancel them. And if someone does something horrendous out of fear or pain, that doesn't make it okay. These things can, however, make it more confusing and daunting for us to process.
I think that characters in general, just like people, are much more interesting when they're not all good or all bad. I think life is pretty boring if that's everybody's course ahead of them. So you can understand somebody's motives. It doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but at least you can see all the shades in a character or in a person in your life and try to understand from someone else's perspective why they might do something.
Buffy also says the more she knows, the more confusing life gets. I think the older I've become, the less I know. I had a certainty when I was young that has lessened each year.
I think I've actually gotten more clarity this past year, especially where in youth we're very certain about how we see the world and our place in it. And then as life goes on, everything kind of gets a little bit muddled and confused. But this last year, everything just got very clear and a lot of the extra noise was pushed out.
Yeah, I think I've had that too, because there was a lot of noise, and I've come to a point of also knowing what's important to give attention to and what's not. I think this is one of the reasons that coming-of-age stories like Buffy resonate so much. Buffy's realizing that her assumptions may not be concrete. The world is complicated. Giles says that this is growing up. Buffy asks if life ever gets easy. Then she asks Giles to lie to her.
When we're little, life is really simple. And all you have to worry about is sleeping, eating, and playing. And honestly, there are days when that seems like a really great idea to go back to. But as we get older, our relationships change, our family dynamics change, and we start to understand things differently and also see people beyond what they're actually just saying. And everything gets more complicated. Our first season, life for Buffy was fairly straightforward compared to how it is now, where all of her relationships are getting tangled and she's really taking the time to get to know people on a different level. It all is very confusing and difficult to sort through. And unfortunately, it's only going to get worse in that department.
I've been reading a book called Twice, and its premise is that this child has the strengthening he goes through his life where he can redo moments in time, but only twice. And it doesn't mean that the second outcome will necessarily be better than the first, but he then has to live with the second outcome, whichever one is the one that stands. What's interesting about it is, as a kid, I always wanted to have that power to really express myself with a lot of what was going on in my house and just see what would happen, but then be able to rewind and have it not happen and not have transpired. But what's interesting in the book is that it's some of the difficulties and the things that don't go well that we learn the most from in life. Those complexities are what inform and shape us and make us strong or warriors or fully the people that we are. So if you give that up, what does that mean? It's just been something that's been interesting and thought-provoking in the book that I'm reading.
No, I agree. I've always been more afraid of success than of failure because I figure with failure, you can always learn from it, you can build on it, you can do something with it. But if you just succeed, then everything's just kind of flat. The only place that you can go is an expectation to continue to succeed. Whereas failure, you can go up, you can go down, it's all forgivable.
I can relate to that because I wasn't really supposed to succeed in my family, so it always feels dangerous that something terrible is gonna happen or that I'm betraying by being successful or doing something well. But that's one of those things that I feel like as I've gotten older, I've let go of that because that isn't based in truth. It's not based in who I really am. It's what was imposed on me, and it makes your life not fun because you do need to enjoy the positive things and the successes because life sure has a lot of the other. So you need to enjoy the moments when something does go really great. As far as the lies in this episode, Angel lies to Buffy about Dru and hides that he's looking into Ford. Willow and Xander lie by omission, doing this too. Ford lies about his plans and keeps his illness a secret. He also lies about killing the vampire. Buffy lies to Ford about leaving her purse at the Bronze and about being the Slayer, but he already knows. Dru is evasive and in essence lies when she hasn't shared with Spike that she saw Angel. But to be fair, I didn't think it was a big deal. When Buffy calls Ford a lying scumbag, he tells her that everybody lies. In the very last scene, Buffy asks Giles the exact opposite of what she asks Angel earlier. She's finding the moral ambiguity and the messy nature of the world overwhelming and asks for a comforting lie. Revamptees, tell us if we missed any lies in the episode. Trust is also a big theme in this episode, too. Buffy wonders if she can trust Angel when she sees him with Drusilla, and she discusses this again after he tells her about his heinous actions with Dru. Buffy feels that she can't trust Willow and Xander because they were surreptitious and hid their actions from her. Ford tells Diego to trust him in helping the group to become vampires. Angel tells Buffy not to trust Ford. On a more playful note, Jenny tells Giles he just has to trust her when it comes to the surprise date she's planning. And also, Ford says in a playful way at the pool table at the Bronze that he knows Buffy's secrets from growing up together. I think the themes are lies, trust, realizing that life is complex, and growing up. I didn't experience a turning point or a revelation seeing that the world was complex and confusing. I don't think there was ever a time I felt safe growing up. I always felt that the world was complex. It always felt confusing. In fact, my very first memory is of something people think of as an American symbol of happiness, the white picket fence. It was our neighbor's massive white picket fence. I remember stumbling by it with the sun striding through each slat and weeping unconsolably with huge, heaving sobs. So, day one of my memory is not super happy-go-lucky, but I'm a person who wants to know the truth. I think this is something that came up for me a lot when I look at the deeper themes of the episode. It served me in life to face the truth, even if it's brutal and ugly. For me, it wasn't healthy when I shied away from seeing it. However, I don't think that means parents should involve children in the lies they have between themselves, especially when they're young. They shouldn't put their children in the middle of it. When I was a young teenager, my mom went into detail about issues my parents had sexually. I don't think that that's something a kid should ever be tasked with knowing. At the same time, she also told me that my father had been unfaithful. I'm not sure that the details which she shared about their intimacy were all true. Regardless, I don't think these are appropriate topics to tell a child, particularly when a child is pre-sexual. When I later read psychiatrist M. Scott Peck's book, People of the Lie, I related so strongly to the case study called The Case of the Spider Phobia. M. Scott Peck's book changed my life for the better. For me personally, the religious aspects don't resonate, but his definition of malignant narcissism and the case studies are powerful and spot on. They deeply resonated when I first read it, and they still do. In the spider phobia case, the mother is very much like my mom. She wanted to bond and mesh with the child in all kinds of unhealthy ways, allying against the father, discouraging independence, discouraging and sabotaging the child's success, sacrificing the child's needs and well-being for her own, sharing inappropriate sexual information and details. My dad also did a lot of these behaviors, like discouraging and sabotaging the child's success, sacrificing the child's needs and well-being for his own. He also told me inappropriate sexual details. He once told me that he had been sent a hooker and who had sent her to his hotel, and then said, "What could I do?" If anyone listening is experiencing any of these things, I really recommend this book. The audio version is narrated by M. Scott Peck himself. He was a revolutionary thinker. His Road Less Traveled is also a wonderful book. Robert Bly also has some interesting and helpful talks that you can find, and Dr. Romany's YouTube channel can be helpful as well.
Growing up, my grandmother lived with us, and she was always brutally honest. Even as a child, if I did something that most parents, grandparents would say, like, "Oh, that was great," she would be full of critique. And so in a weird way, it was always great because you know where you stood with her. If she gave you a compliment, it was honest. If she gave you a critique, it was coming from a good place, although often wrapped up in some harsh words. When I was 7 years old, I was driving home with my mom from somewhere. Out of nowhere in the car, she told me that my dad was not my birth father.
Oh.
And I don't know why she chose that moment, if she had been trying to figure out when she was going to do it, but I appreciated the honesty right away. It clarified a lot of things in my life, that I was treated differently by his mother, my grandma, and just feeling a little out of the loop with everybody. At times, I was teased because of it, but ultimately, I just kept picturing myself like on my own desert island. So anything that anybody else did, I could always just say, well, it's just me on this place and nobody else, so it's fine. Later on, knowing that ended up reshaping my relationship with my dad, and I could honestly say that he treated me so well that I never questioned before or after that he was my dad.
Mm-hmm.
But again, having that truth just ironed out other parts of my life and made me feel more comfortable in my own skin.
It sounds almost like it was a puzzle piece
Yes.
being snapped into place where you went, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah, I love a mystery. I'm constantly surrounded by stacks of mystery novels, and the other day I had this epiphany that my life's purpose is I'm a seeker. I'm someone who likes to know things and understand how things work and find the root of something, and I wonder how much of that was sparked because of my upbringing or even because of that conversation in the car, just wanting to know the cause and the source of different things.
I think that makes sense. I'm a seeker too, and I'm very curious as you are. And I think that sometimes if you're in a place where there's been secrets, that maybe you're right. It does lead you to want to see and know the truth.
You have to follow that thread. You have to unwind the sweater. I can't sleep if I don't know something. If, a book I was thinking about, or a movie, or an actor, or a hairstyle, whatever it is, I will lay in bed and go down a rabbit hole of research and find one thing, and then it shoots off into a different topic, and then I'm now curious about this. And
You can see I'm like that when we start looking at where does the phrase stick out like sore thumbs come from?
And I absolutely love that. A lot of these things that we kind of take for granted that we say all the time. I'm always wondering, how did this start? Who was the first person that said it? Who agreed that this was okay? And
Fascinating.
I think the way that we look at slang today is very straightforward. And the way that slang will travel now is very different than the way these terms traveled around before. So even thinking about it that way, I find interesting.
Me too. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's really beautiful that you built upon the truth with your father, who was your father, who raised you, and you had that relationship with, even if he wasn't your birth father, that you were able to build that depth and connection, which you probably wouldn't have been if it was based on a lie.
I think I would have taken the relationship for granted. And instead, I always just remind myself that he could have ignored me completely. He didn't owe me anything. And so he wasn't perfect, but I accepted him for who he was. And I will always appreciate and love him for that.
And that's what love is. Nobody's perfect. Nothing's perfect, but it is seeing one another and accepting one another and connecting. What is the line of dialogue from this episode that you would get as a tattoo?
Oh, that's easy. It's when Xander says,
He wants more attention.
I have a few of them, and that one was definitely one of them. I love that one. Also, when Ford asks if he would be imposing if he joins them at the Bronze, and Xander waves him off and says,
No, only in the literal sense.
when Angel says in Willow's bedroom,
100 years, just hanging out, feeling guilty. I really honed my brooding skills.
Xander to Willow at the Sunset Club,
You have too many thoughts.
I can really relate to that one. But my favorite is when Buffy is with Ford and says,
You don't have a good choice, but you have a choice.
it's powerful. I hate to admit it, but Buzzy does have a strong quote there.
Let's get ready to Buffy!
If you want to be considered as a contender for this season's trivia battle, please email revampedpod@gmail.com. Yes, be sure to include your name, where you weigh in with your number of watch-throughs, where you're located, something interesting about you, or something that you think would be good to share, and
your social media handles.
Enough of something extremely different.
Different.
In Inca Mummy Girl, I talked about going to the British Museum as a little girl and seeing the mummies. I also mentioned having a school field trip to Stonehenge. Stonehenge, where the demons dwell, where the banshees live, and they do live well. I'm really keen to see the new Spinal Tap movie. Me too. That Nigel is my kind of bloke. We might be due for another fling. So the reason I'm bringing up Stonehenge is because I have an update. Dev and I were in the UK in September because James and I appeared at Comic-Con Connections in Newbury. The con put us up at a lovely hotel, which was a converted manor. It had beautiful gardens for miles around it. The first night, we see on our TV menu that Stonehenge is really near. It felt like kismet because we had all just talked about it on our show. Dev had also not been there since he was a lad on a school field trip, and it was so unexpected. We had so much fun. It's different from when we were kids because then you could just walk up to it. You could stand in the center of it. Now it's roped off due to vandalism, which is just so sad and hard to fathom. They have certain tours you can book to be let into the middle, and there are festivals, but we hadn't planned far enough in advance. Regardless, it was a glorious day. The sun was shining, and the experience of being there is quite mystical, magical, primal, and humbling. We spent an hour soaking it all in and just loving every minute of it. A lot of people working there are part of the Heritage Society, and what's really cool is that each one is a font of historic information, and they're super passionate about it, and they're really excited to share what they know. We spoke to 2 different women at length. The second woman pointed out the burial mounds in the distance and discussed the specifics of each stone. All of a sudden, as we were talking, she was actually giving us some pictures that she had. An intense rainstorm erupted out of nowhere. We took out our brawly, but the rain was coming down at an angle, so there was no point. We were immediately drenched. And not just a little bit, but soaked through. We saw that a bus was coming to take people back down the hill, and about 200 people started to rush toward it. It sat about 40 people, and thankfully, we just made the cut because the rain was relentlessly pelting. We were literally number 39 and 40. The funny thing is that everyone on the bus looked completely miserable. They were sopping wet from head to toe. It was utterly silent. You could hear a pin drop. I glanced from maudlin face to maudlin face, and all you could see were beads of water trailing down their faces, and the only sound, only audible thing was drops plunking off of noses and cheeks and foreheads with this loud thump, thump, thump. And I whispered to Deb, oh my God, I remember this from childhood, having my shoes waterlogged, my socks squishy, my clothes wet, and being really cold. This is not something I have missed. But even though everyone else looked miserable and the thump, 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 thump of the water was accentuating this, the weather could not kill our enthusiasm. Dev and I were full of the experience of being in a special place that was erected so long ago. And then, to mirror our mood, the sun came out, and one of the biggest rainbows we have ever seen radiated over the entire landscape. It was gorgeous.
Magic on magic.
Yeah. What about you?
My grandfather was a jazz pianist. His name was Randy Weston. And a number of times I got to go on tour with him, mostly my mother and I, but sometimes my brothers, my dad. And we had this incredible trip to Japan with my parents and I. He has a fan club there in Kyoto. So we went and got to meet everybody. And instead of his whole band, he just brought his bass player, Alex Blake, with him. So the first performance was in a Shinto shrine that was hundreds and hundreds of years old. And I kept thinking, like, I wasn't sure how this was gonna play out. It wasn't a huge space, and everybody was sitting on pads on the floor, and I was videotaping the whole thing, and I thought, well, sound isn't gonna be great, and it'll just be nice to have this memory. And then it started raining outside, funny enough.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, okay, well, there goes something else to battle while filming this. So he walked in and everyone's applauding and he goes to sit at the piano. And then everything got dead silent. This wasn't just adults, there were children sitting on the floor and nobody was talking. And everybody was silent throughout the entire concert. Standing there, smelling the wood of the temple, feeling the ground under my feet, the sound of the rain mixing with the piano playing. It was probably the most spiritual experience of my entire life. It felt like we were completely miles away from anything else on the planet and just in this space, in this building, in this music and in that moment. It was amazing. Occasionally, I shifted my weight and I could hear the bones in my toes crack, and it was the loudest sound in the place. And I felt awful. Even thinking about it now, I can still smell the wood and the rain. It's stuck on me since then. So I think that place, that experience, that moment in time was the most magical of my life.
It sounds extraordinary.
I'll have to find the footage for you.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I would love to see it. Maybe we can share it with everybody on Patreon too, if you're open to sharing it.
Yeah, I would be.
That's incredible. It also sounds like it was one of those transformative moments where everything just came together unexpectedly.
Like yours, sometimes everything just pulls together to give you this moment, to give you this experience complete with a rainbow.
Yep. And when you think on it, it's wild how much of the sensory experience, because you talked about what you could feel and what you could smell and what you could see. And when I'm talking about it was silent except for these thumps, how much our senses put you right back there. I love that. Revamptees, please share a majestic or magical place that you've gone. We'd love to hear.
Yes, we would.
Ditto.
Interview with the vampire. This evening's vampire question.
Yes, mister.
This one I actually brought up with a friend of mine the other day, and it spawned a very long conversation. So I'd be curious to hear what everybody thinks on this.
Cool.
In turning, would you become the perfected version of yourself? Or would you remain you, but elevated? In other words, would you be taller, leaner, languid, like the typical vampires in books? Or would you wake up looking just like yourself, but improved? Shiny hair, faster movement, and different abilities, but to everybody that looks at you, you look the same. One is all abilities, but the other one is abilities and appearance as well.
Oh, I would be perfected. Although I've spent the latter part of my life not striving for perfection like I used to. I was a perfectionist in many areas, and I've come to believe it's important to celebrate the imperfections and not drive ourselves towards an impossible goal. What about you?
I would not want to be perfected. I would want to still look like me, but elevated. A number of years ago, I had to start taking a medication, and for a period of time, every time I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. I looked dramatically different. So I think that kind of scarred me in a sense where I want to be able to recognize myself. But at the same point, then it brings to mind, well, if we can't see a reflection in a mirror,
Right. Might as well be perfected for everyone else.
yeah, I go back and forth on it. But I look down and I can see imperfections in my body that I recognize from my mother or my grandmother that I don't want to change because it ties me to them. So even without being able to look at myself in the mirror, I'd still want to be me.
Cool.
Smoother, shinier hair that it doesn't frizz up as much would be nice, but
What about you, Drusilla?
Well, when you are known throughout the universe,
It's gone from global to galactic to universal.
tri-dimensional.
Oh no,
Soon it will be polydimensional.
it's unending. It's gonna go on and on.
That's the point. It's about having as many listeners and fans as possible. So polydimensional it is. Unless you'd like to be polyamorous.
Nope.
no, Drew.
So I think that's a good cue to wrap up.
Yes, fine. It's time to skedaddle.
But before we do, Revamptees, please correspond with me on our Patreon page, Revamped with Juliet Landau, Twitter @JulietLandau, on Instagram @Juliet_Landau, and on the Fans of Juliet Landau Facebook group or Juliet Landau official Facebook page. Patreon peeps to be read in the credits: Dave Hall,
Fani June Kendall,
Daniel Harbour, Louise Brennan,
Brandon Key,
Cameron Burton,
Donnie Ruskin,
Madeline Pruitt,
Marion Stevenson,
Antonio H. Gutierrez,
and Bobby Pelham.
It makes all the difference because we cannot keep making the show without you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Until we meet again.
Yes. See you next time when we do it again, And until then, rewatch, revamp, reinvent, and be remarkable you. And adieu from Drew.